Like, if I call you my brother, you know what it is. And breaking the code, I could be calm, cool, collective. If we start wilding, I'm changing the mode.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Hard and Way here on Conversation Corner. Got a special guest here today, a really special guest for me personally, too, of course, my cousin. So, first, before we bring her on, y'all see her, we got to do the introductions, though. First, nicknamed Speedy by the Pat Summit. Played 2 seasons with the Atlanta Dream, has played overseas in Lebanon, Italy, Israel, France, Spain, Romania, you name it, she played there, in my opinion. Got a Tennessee Lady Vol alum, 2011 SEC Freshman of the Year, an SEC Player of the Year, an AP All American, a McDonald's All American. I put it like this, y'all. Only one of 5 players scored 2,000 points in Lady Vol's history. She's fifth all time in points and third all time in three pointers. Y'all, it's Meighan Simmons. Fam, how are you?
I'm good, man. I can't complain.
First and foremost, as I've said many times before we start airing, thank you for coming on the show. It's just
You're
thank you so
welcome.
much. It's good to see you. You know,
It's good to see you too, as
hey,
always.
one of the finest of Lady Vols, that y'all. I tell you this. And I say I'm related to one, so I got to get the nod. We're gonna get the family stuff out the way. I probably put some pictures up for them to see how long I've known you.
Yeah.
Laugh about all them experience. But the big news, and one of the main things we got to talk about. You signed with Athlete Unlimited. You signed with AU Pro Hoop. So, like, first, like, what was that experience like getting to sign with them? Like, your thoughts, if I can ask.
Well, originally, last year I wanted to do it, or this past year in February, I wanted to play in Dallas, but I ended up going to Dubai. So
Hmm.
I wasn't really able to attend. So just them, the opportunity availing itself and actually being, in Tennessee it was like a no-brainer for me. So I think that was something that it reminded me, it's going to take me back to where I was to remind me of where I've been
Hmm.
and, where it is that I'm trying to go and kind of network. So that whole process was just amazing. The pre-interview I had with them, like kind of the expectations and what it is, that they want, what they're doing, what they're trying to promote. It was just awesome to kind of get back in the flow of that. So I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yes, and then you kind of touched on it more, but of course, the biggest thing, you being back at Tennessee, like I know that had to be the cherry on top and like an honor in itself, you know?
Yeah, it definitely was. I think it's one of those things where I don't get to go back to Tennessee often. So the fact that I get a chance to do that and then I have people in Nashville, that hit me up on Instagram like, man, we want to be there. We want to come watch you play. We haven't seen you
Hmm.
play in a long time. So just that and then being able to be home, just being able to be in the States. Family, if they wanted to come and watch me play, they can. But outside of that, yeah, I'm just all around excited about it. Yeah.
Yes, and then you mentioned Tennessee. We have to go talk about some of those Tennessee days because I have to ask, and I've always wanted to ask you this, fam. What was it like being recruited by Pat Summit? Like, how did
Um,
that go?
at the time, I was still trying to figure out, where it is I wanted to go. I had offers from everywhere. And I just remember, watching Tennessee play. I forgot who they were playing against. But I just remember watching Tennessee play and I remember watching Candace Parker for the first time. And I was like, man, this team is really, really good. The college, the stuff like that. I wasn't even thinking about college at the moment. But then
Hmm.
when I finally got a chance to see them on TV and I, saw Pat and I saw how he coached, I was like, man, I want something like that. Like I want to be a part of something like that. And it wasn't until maybe a year after I
Hmm.
ended up, going to Japan with my mom, and I was playing with Candace Parker's AAU team at the time. It was called the Aces, and at the time, it's like, wow, like I'm playing for a team that Candace Parker, is kind of like in charge of. So I got a chance to play in front of her. And then that time she ended up calling Pat like right in the middle of me playing. It was like,
Wow.
I don't know if, you guys know who this is, but I think you guys need to take a look at her. And then when we ended up going to Japan, right after we came back home from Japan, we had a voicemail that was left from Tennessee.
That
So
wow.
yeah,
That's
so at
what a
that
story.
time it's like Pat's calling, and she's like, first it was the assistant, and then after I talked to the assistant, he came to watch me play, and after he watched me play, I guess they had a conversation, Pat called the house. And Pat is like on the phone, like with my mom, like, this is Pat Summit. Can I speak to Meighan Simmons? Blah, 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 blah. And I had the conversation the first time I heard her, my voice just like cracked. And he's like, hey, Meighan, this is Pat. And I'm like my breath was taken away. Like this is actually Pat Summit calling. So when I finally got the call, I just knew I was like, man, I want to go on a visit. And she ended up coming all the way to little old Cibolo. And she came to my high school. She sat in the gym during varsity athletics, and she just sat there and watched us practice.
Wow.
And ever since then, it was just like I was this meeting her. I was starstruck. I was in awe, and I was just like her energy, her aura is like something that I gravitated to. And I don't think I've ever really explained that to my interaction. But first meeting her and seeing her face, it was just kind of like automatic. It was automatic like gravity that just pulled me to
Mm.
her. So yeah, it was an amazing experience, like being like recruited by her. I'll never forget that. Lord rest her soul.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely RIP Pat Summitt. But that's a
Yeah,
story. Candace Parker. I didn't know that was part of it. That's pretty crazy.
and she will never take credit. That's the other part. Like Candace will never really take credit, but she played a really big part. Her words mattered, and I think that
Yeah.
because of that, she believed in me. She just like, yeah, hey, I want you to be a lady ball, this and that, and it was just awesome. Like that whole experience, meeting her for the first time. Yeah, that was just awesome.
Yeah. And speaking of Lady Vol, I always ask, like, love asking this question of like for college students and stuff. But like for you to be like, what was your greatest memory playing for as a Lady Vol? Like, because there's got to be some good ones, I bet.
Um, I think one of the best. Well, I'll give you two.
Okay.
One was actually winning a championship,
Mm,
winning the SEC championship. That was an amazing feeling. Um, and then also just the interactions with the fans, the support that we had, it is uncomparable. Like to the fan base and how much they supported us and just getting a chance to travel, like getting a chance to travel, being taken care of, the food we ate, the fun we had as teammates, the team bonding that we had, just the whole process. I can't really like pinpoint an actual memory, but just everything about it is what I enjoyed. Just the
mm,
entire 4 years. It has its ups and downs, but that's the beauty in all of it. It's just going through that and still being able to come out of that situation a million times stronger than what you came in. So
mm.
that's what I would say was the best thing about the whole college process or being a lady ball, as you would say.
Yeah. And you mentioned SEC championship, and I'm glad you brought that up because also one thing I've always wanted to ask you about. Because when you win the SEC championship, it books your ticket into March Madness. How is playing in March Madness? Like, how is that experience as a whole? Because I know on TV it's one of the craziest things in March to watch, but like you playing in it, like, how was that?
It's madness. It's madness, and they call it March Madness for a reason because anything can happen in March Madness. You can come in, you could be the top seed and still get knocked out.
Yeah.
So I think just the adrenaline that you feel knowing that you seal the deal of going to the NCAA tournament and you win or go home. Like just having that sense of urgency every day to know, like, I gotta practice to win. I gotta do this. I gotta, whatever the process is for you to win every single game, it's indescribable.
Yeah.
It's very indescribable.
And especially like you made three Elite Eight appearances, so you got pretty deep in the madness too. Like that must have been crazy. Like getting farther and farther. Like,
It was, and sadly, we didn't get over that hump in those 3 years. But I do feel like certain, like I said, it's madness. Certain
yeah.
things, things sometimes don't fold in your favor, and everything, comes to an end eventually. But you just gotta, make adjustments and try to do your best to be better the next year. And I think we got better, but every time we got to that point, it was like there was something that was keeping us from getting there.
Mm,
But I think the mentality of consistently trying to work hard and be better for the next year stuck.
mm.
It just stuck. So yeah.
And then more on like the student side, I know it's like a little different from, of course, now, but as someone who's in school juggling stuff, how did you st like juggle being a student and like the athletics part of that, like while being there?
Um, I think just being a student, it can be very, very stressful. It's very big on being in college, and being a college athlete is all about time management. And sometimes, when you're in college, people say those are the best years of your life. So, of course, at times you want to go out with your friends, you want to go eat, you want to, maybe party every now and then, but I think a lot of it had to do with a lot of discipline and showing up to class every day, sitting the first two rows of the classes, to being on time and still having the strength to be able to go through workouts, and still after being dead mentally, your body is just like, oh man, go lay down, but you still got to study. You might have an exam the next day. So
Mhm.
kind of having the discipline, it could be a lot, but as long as you have solid time management, getting through college. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's helpful, and it's beneficial to have solid time management.
That's real. As someone who's a college student, that is so real. But
You
then
got to.
also too, one of the biggest things in college sports now, the NIL, making the money off your image and likeness. You didn't get that. So like, how was that for you in a sense, like in that time frame of, having to play and watch like sell tickets in a sense, but like not get from that and like because you weren't allowed to make any money. So like how did you survive in a sense, I guess was my one question. Like
I mean, well, of course, in at that time, and I say at that time like I'm just old, which, it's been years since I've been in school, but I think that what it is now, it depends on how you look at it. Because now the NIL deals, they're handing out so much money to these young kids, that some of these kids that maybe come in with nothing, that's now, do you have somebody that's handling your finances? Do you have somebody, that's really trying to push you to invest or things like that? Now it's a lot of money just being thrown around, but I genuinely feel like it's annoying that at the time that I was in school, we couldn't receive a pin from
yeah.
anybody. If that was the case, we couldn't play, or we would be banned from playing or like competing in anything. But now it's like you can still make money and still compete. But the competition and actually looking at the idea of competing, I feel like to an extent it's there, but it's not,
Mm,
because now everybody has their hand out for the money side of everything. So the passion for the game, the consistency of the sense of urgency to be better, it as an athlete, is slowly kind of somewhat deteriorating. And I think that it can be a hassle, but in order for the game to be built up, and not just not for basketball, but for football, softball, anything, gymnastics, it's a lot. It can be a lot. And now they're looking at you like, okay, if you don't perform, are we going to pull money from you? Do you still have your contract? Now it's higher. Now I feel like now with NIL deals, it's higher expectations, because if you don't play or if you don't perform, now I'm not really getting it. So not every athlete is going to get it.
mm,
That's the sad part about NIL deals. Not every athlete in the school is going to get it. And if they do, it might be very minimal. It's not going to be a maximum amount of money, six figures, things like that. But it's something, and it's extra money that you don't have to worry about the stipends and stuff from school. You still have the extra money to get you a car, whatever it is that you want to do. But I personally wish NIL deals was around at the time that we were playing, because I guarantee you, if it was around, I wouldn't have. I have to be careful what I say. I don't think that I would have played as long as I have.
mm.
I probably would have saved quite a bit of money from what these kids are making, these millions that they're making. Trust me, I wouldn't have played as long. And if anything, if I did play, it's because I wanted to, and because I wanted to stay around and play. Outside of that, no, I probably would have been retired, probably by 30. So yeah.
But yeah, and then talking about the passion of the game, we're kind of gonna. I want to bring it a little back to Pat a little bit. One of the greatest coaches in women's basketball history. Like I feel like that's not like a statement. That statement you can definitely say. Like, how was it like playing for Pat though?
Mm. it's crazy because the more and more people ask me that, the more speechless I become because
Mm,
it's hard to really describe or really put in words, but I can say in very few words that I got what I was supposed to get out
mm,
of being next to her.
mm,
I became a stronger woman mentally because of her. I became mentally tough because of her. Um, the strength that I have to continue to push in the midst of trial and tribulation and never giving up sticks. So I think just her leadership and following suit in that it's drilled into me to where it's hard to really explain. Like I to this day, sometimes I see her face or
mm,
I hear her voice, like being on the court. All right, Speedy, this don't look right. Whatever. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, but even playing, I hear her voice sometimes. So it's very she's very etched in my heart. It's one of those things where when God sends you people in your life to kind of push you in the direction that you're supposed to go, or really kind of fulfill your purpose and who you are on this earth, is it's very very seldom that you find that, or you
mm,
find that connection with somebody as genuine as the connection that I had with her as a coach and just as a mother figure, like off the court, just being a mom, being inspiring, taking care of us. When if we were sick or if we had a cold, she did everything that she could to make sure that we were good. So just it was just all around an amazing experience. I have no
mm.
complaints about that woman, like whatsoever.
That's real. And then, but then though, for you, you kind of did get like, oh, I get put in like a weird situation in ways because you got like her very last season, but you still played a season or two without her. So like, how was that adjusting from like the Pat Summer to like Coach Warwick? Like, how was that?
I think, of course, people are not the same.
Mm,
And of course, the energy is a little bit different. Because when Pat walked in, or if anything, you would know Pat was coming because she had a strong scent. Like to this day, I can if somebody was to say something of any type of perfume, I could tell you what scent it was. That's how
mm.
strong it was. You knew she was coming. When you smelt it, you'd like, Pat's here. Like so the energy was different. It was definitely an adjustment. I think Holly stepped into some really big shoes. And I think that yes, me playing for her for only 2 years, which was sad because I wanted to play for her for all 4 years. But seeing her on the sidelines after she stepped down, that was still enough because I was still able to talk to her before the game. I would go up to her after the national anthem, give her a hug, and she'd be like, let's go. Regardless of what people thought, if she wasn't fully aware, she would always look at me and be like, Speedy, let's go.
Mm,
Like let's win, things like that. So it was difficult. It was a difficult adjustment, but I feel like I handled it very, very well. I stayed loyal to not just the idea of who she was, but the legacy that she built. And I am one of the last that played for her.
yeah,
So it's an awesome experience to know that I was there at the end of her reign of
yeah.
being one of the best coaches in women's
No,
college basketball. So it was definitely an experience and definitely an adjustment that I had for sure.
yes. And then we're gonna jump a little topic. So of course, from college, you go to the WNBA. So first, we're gonna go over, and I laugh because I was there, of course, but the draft night experience itself. So like, how was that for you? Like, take everybody who's gonna be watching this, take them through the draft night experience for you.
Well, so when I found out that I was even invited to the draft, I
Hmm.
didn't know what I was gonna wear. I don't know how my hair was gonna look. I wanted to make sure like I looked okay on TV. And I was just nervous, like all around nervous. I didn't know where I was going to get drafted. But I do distinctly remember just the energy and of everybody. Everybody was kind of like, this is the next phase. This is the next step. And just experiencing like getting makeup done, like our hair done, things like that. That was something different. They had everything laid out for us. So all day we had something to do. We had interviews, we had um, WNBA cares, a camp or whatever while we were there in Connecticut. And it was a lot. And then just kind of sitting there waiting, waiting for my name to be called, it can be very, very nerve-wracking. But I think just the fact of me being there and me being invited, I think showed my value. But at the same time, even though people thought I would have went higher, I was still never denied because I was still able to get drafted that same night.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it was a crazy experience, but I enjoyed every bit of it.
hmm And then, of course, and I feel bad bringing this up a little bit, but you get drafted to New York Liberty, and in preseason, you were cut, and so it's that thing where like I just always wanted to ask, like, what was that experience like adjusting to the pros in that like short window? Because it is a really quick turnaround from the draft to preseason for the WNBA, as I've learned in covering it. So like, how was
Yeah.
that like experience like adjusting to that? Like, and
Um,
then.
I think that the adjustment is mostly mental
Mm,
because if you come in and you feel like automatically, yeah, it's gonna be easy. It's gonna be automatically tough. But I didn't come in with that mentality. I just came in with the mentality that I wanted to make the team, regardless of what anybody thought, looking at my size and if I was capable of doing whatever, and the players that they already had on the team. I still wanted to compete.
mm,
And I think the turnaround just kind of makes you realize that you have to always be ready and stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
mm,
So I think that is something that I took away from just that experience. I felt like mentally I was ready. Physically, I felt like I was ready. Um, and at the end of the day, just being cut, I was very, very frustrated. But I knew that I wanted to come back twice as hard because I wanted to make the team.
mhm.
So, and it was a crazy experience. It wasn't like, it was like, okay, yeah, it is what it is, and then we're gonna cut you. No real explanation. Just we're just gonna cut you. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's a little cold hearted. But in
Mm,
good
yeah.
news, though, of course, you then get with the Atlanta Dream. And so now this is the more of the like being on the road playing experience. Like, what'd you gain most from playing in Atlanta?
I think for one, playing under Michael Cooper was a blessing. It
Mm,
was definitely a blessing, like learning from him, picking his brain, really kind of paying attention to how he was, paying attention to detail and how he cared about us as women. Um, I think that was an experience, but I was able to be myself
mm,
and making the team going through that. I think when they saw my body, they're like, oh, she's working hard. She's challenging everybody. She's doing what she can. Because at the time I was on a training camp contract. I had nothing, there was nothing that was confirmed. So it took those 2.5 weeks of training camp for me to actually prove to them I was capable of playing in the WNBA. And finally, when I was the last day that they had, I'm like, okay, I'm still here. Like, am I going to make the team? And when I finally saw that they had made their final cut and I had made the team, I didn't know what to do. I was just like, wow. So I think that just that was a great experience, like being under him and him actually believing in me and trusting in my gift. And that
mm.
was enough in itself for me.
Yeah. And then, of course, I have to ask, because one of the big things as covering the W this past season has been the whole getting charter flights finally. So for you, once again, it's almost like you were there a couple years too early. So how was the traveling conditions and some of that stuff pre, like pre today, basically?
I mean, flying commercial is flying. It's different, when you actually get to charter, because in college, we had our own flights. Like
Mm,
we didn't fly charter unless we really had to. But outside of that, no, we had our charter flights. So the fact that it is that way now, I mean, I think it's very beneficial because I do feel like we're deserving of it.
hmm
And everything takes time. I'm just learning, like in life, through my life and everything that I've been through, that it takes time. Certain things take time. It may not be in a time that you're there, but eventually it'll come to where it's supposed to be, and that's it. And you have to accept it for what it is, whether it's when you were there or when you're not. So,
Yes. But now we will once again do a little bit of a transition, I guess. Because then after the Land Dream, you go play overseas. And
Hmm.
now, to me, I've had a bunch of questions we're gonna get through that I've always wanted to ask. First, though, which country was the best country you played in?
Dubai.
Dubai? Okay.
Hmm.
Why? I
Yeah.
just we need some. I need some details.
I can say nothing. I wouldn't say about the basketball situation.
Hmm.
I would have to say just experiencing the discipline of their culture,
Mm,
the discipline of consistent prayer, the discipline of being outside with family on Sunday, not inside, not watching TV. Everybody's outside. They're doing something. And I think just seeing people flourish in a different way, the cleanliness is something that made me realize that this is where I'm supposed to be. It gave me a different visual because sometimes when you get in certain situations, you have the mentality of just being content with just enough. And those people out there, they're not content with just enough. And it shows. So when you go to different areas, certain areas look better than others. But when you actually get to certain parts, you're like, yeah, this is this is it.
mm,
Right. So Dubai, just all around my experience was just I loved it. I loved every part of it. Food and all. Food, people, everything.
mm. You did mention adjustment cultures, which is another question I always had. Because you go to these different countries. I mentioned Italy and France in the intro. So like, how is it to go in different places, to different leagues, and having to adjust to those different cultures though? Like that's got to be an experience and a half.
It is, but I I can say I loved every part of it because I think for me, I've always been somewhat of a social butterfly, but shy at the same time, if that makes sense. So I never had a problem with, communicating or meeting new people and being kind. I think so that kind of helped me navigate through dealing with different cultures, learning the language, while I'm there, like whether it's, just small things like how to say hello, how to ask for something, how to say no, whatever, no thank you, whatever. Um, but adjusting to the cultures was just as good as playing.
Mm,
So, and that made the experience, I think that just made the experience better. Because trying the different foods, meeting different people, seeing the different cultures, it allows me to see how awesome, the world is, how much more there is to it than just what I come from.
mm.
So it was an awesome experience for sure.
I mean, it sounds like it, but also too, I have to now ask on the more basketball side. I know it is just from like playing in high school with myself, I guess. It's hard adjusting to different playbooks and stuff, switching teams just in regular old English. So like going to different countries, I'm assuming they operated in their same languages. So like how was adjusting to those different playbooks in those places? Like how,
I mean, it's pretty much the same. When you know basketball terminology is a universal terminology,
mm,
whether if it's in a different language or not. You can, if you really know the game, you'll understand angles, you'll understand plays. It's easy to read it. So for me, because I've learned to kind of think the game, I pay attention and I'm a visual learner. So even if the coach is speaking Spanish, I could sit there and look and be like, okay, this is what it is. This is what he's trying to get to. And then if my teammate comes and she goes, Meg, you good? Like, you know what he's talking about? I'm like, yeah, I got it. And then when I actually do it, then they're like, what? Like but because I understand the game and I understand how to maneuver through certain things and paying attention to plays, and you give me a visual of what I'm supposed to do, now I know.
mm.
So it was I think it was pretty easy for me. So
That's good. Now the other question too, with the whole being in different countries, time zones. Did that ever play a factor? Because I know I get jet lag going like an hour behind, so I can only imagine like how that must be.
yeah, so I would say jet lag lasts maximum 2 weeks.
Mm,
And a lot of times I think as I continue to go overseas, depending on I would look at the time difference and I would actually try to sleep at the times where I'm supposed to sleep over there and wake up when I'm supposed to wake up over there.
mm,
And then even on the plane, like kind of paying attention to the time and like, okay, it's 8 o'clock here, it's 8 o'clock PM over there, but it's 12 o'clock here. So here at 12 o'clock, I'm gonna take a nap because I know I like when I get over there, I know I'm gonna be asleep. But regardless, you're still gonna be jet lagged, even if you practice that because of being in the air, you
Mhm.
traveling across multiple time zones. So that
Yes.
also has an effect on it. But maximum I could say was about 2 weeks, just getting used to that. And it's not bad because once you flip that switch and you off of it, everything else is smooth sailing.
Well, that was wow. And then also then in being these different countries, like, did you ever get to like adventure? I'm assuming you did, but like adventure out and like see different places and like different, I guess, like museums and monuments in those types of countries. Like, how was that?
Yeah, so I've been to some amazing places. I think I have like maybe 2,000 pictures of where I've been. So,
Wow.
and I'm the type of person that I like to be in the moment, but I also like to be candid and, take pictures and things like that. So I have pictures of me in Jerusalem, like where Jesus carried the cross. I have, you know, floating in the Dead Sea or going to Auschwitz, in Poland. Where else have I been? I've been in Japan, being there, like seeing their temples, just everywhere. I've been being in Africa, just Egypt, things like that. I have a ton of pictures. So yeah, I loved going on the days that I had off. I loved like going to the movies or, going to see a museum, like you said, or seeing the pyramids. Like it's just something that you have to do. Like it's only right when you're there.
It
So,
just it does seem only right, especially in like Egypt, the pyramids. That seems only right. So
right.
that's yeah, that's cool. That's wow. Like, you really have just hit up a bunch of. How many countries have you been in? Like, do you got an official count? Because the ones I had, I only named about seven. But I'm like,
Let's just say I got to recount on both hands. I got to recount on both hands because where I've played, the countries that I've played in, we still travel to other countries.
ooh,
So
I didn't even
it's
think of that.
always been it's always been like playing in different leagues, you go to different countries. Like if you're playing in EuroLeague, you're going to travel to Russia. You may travel from Poland to Russia. Russia may, things like that. So you're pretty much playing in quite a few countries, but the ones that I remember are the ones that I know, like I played on a team in, and then, just trying to keep count of everywhere else is like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But let's just say I've been everywhere you can think of besides like 3 countries. That's
Wow.
it. Yeah, three or four. Like, of course, there's so many countries in Europe and Africa. I haven't been to all of those, but I've been in every continent. Let's put it like that. Besides Australia, that's it.
Mm. That's
Australia and Canada and South America, I have not been to.
that's pretty bucket list though, like in its own
Yeah,
right. And
yeah.
then I have to mention this because I saw this when like getting ready for this interview. I saw you represented Cambodia in a 3-on-3 tournament. Like, how did that work?
Well, there was a coach that I had a connection with from the Asian tournament that I played in Tunisia, and he's like, Meg, I have something that's coming up. And he's like, I want to keep in contact with you because there's a possibility of you, possibly getting your passport, like a different passport. So I was like, okay, cool. This sounds like a pretty good deal. Come to find out, it was Cambodia.
Mm.
And when I tell you, it was like we stayed in the Olympic Village there in that country because they want to try to get the Olympics to be out there. And playing 3-on-3 was a great experience. And then we actually got to play 5-on-5. I was a part of the first women's team that had 5-on-5 basketball. So
Wow.
it was an amazing, and I don't think many people know that, but it was an amazing experience, because Cambodia is rich, whether people believe it or not. It's a very rich country and the people are so sweet. The energy is just like the way they took care of us is just yeah, it was amazing.
That
It
was
was a good
cool.
experience. Yeah.
That's cool. So then, does that mean you just have like a Cambodian citizenship now? Like,
Yes and no. I don't have like my actual passport, but to an extent, yes.
hmm. I
Yeah.
guess you would technically Cambodian citizen. How about you learn something new every day, huh?
All right, right.
But
All
but
right.
in the overall overseas talk, of course, I have to ask the age-old question that I'm assuming you get many a times. But what's the biggest difference in playing overseas and playing here in the good old US of A? I have to ask.
Biggest difference is um I would have to say the physicality
Hmm.
because overseas they're dirty, real dirty,
Really?
real dirty.
We talking like elbows and everything? Like,
Oh yeah, elbow in the face, undercut you, coaches
uh-uh.
yelling. Oh yeah, trust me. I've been there, trust me, I've been elbowed in the face a few times. I've been slapped in the face. I've been scratched. My jersey's been ripped before. Yeah, I've been
We're,
through quite
we're
a bit
talking
of
malice at the palace right now. Hold on.
real malice. But
Mm-mm.
here, let me not say that the WNBA is not, I'm not going to say that the WNBA is not competitive and it's not aggressive, but overseas is really, really dirty. It can get dirty.
Yeah.
It can. Yeah.
Wow. Well, did not expect that. I was figuring it'd be one of those things about like the athleticism, because I just think of like, in basketball when I
Oh,
see
of
like,
course, yeah, the athleticism for sure. Yes. Like their basketball over there is more technical.
mm,
Here, it's athleticism.
yes.
Like super strong. You got women that are very versatile and things like that. Out there, they're very structured, like
Mm,
super team oriented. Here, you have a lot of people that can be individually talented. There, they don't have it as like we do. That's
mm.
a difference. Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess now, like, just we're gonna end it around here with the bigger theme of basketball. And I have to ask, like, what made you fall in love with basketball to begin with? Like, I guess we went from current day to like all the way back here.
Um, Watching my dad.
Mm,
Yeah, let me not say I think. I do believe that the urgency I had to learn was because of him. And my mom, she used to take us, like when we were little, she used to take us up to a place on base where my dad used to play at lunchtime. And distinctly remember there was one time where I remember just watching my dad. My dad had a jump shot out of this world. And
really?
oh yeah, my dad, he could shoot the ball very, very well. And he liked to score. So I think watching him and then watching my brothers, pick up a basketball and play, I think that had me want to be like, yo, I wanna I wanna learn how to do this. So, and I felt like if I could pick up a basketball and beat my brothers, I could beat anybody. So the day that I did, that was the turn. That was the turn for me. At that point, I was like, yeah, I'm taking it serious. Yeah.
Wow. Uncle Wayne has
Hmm.
jump shot. That's like the one takeaway I have from that whole statement. I'm just like, wow.
He did.
Okay.
Yeah, uncle. Yeah, your
Mm,
uncle could play. He
uh-oh.
could play. He was good. He
Yeah.
was good.
I know my grandma, your aunt too, but I know my aunt. Uh-oh. I know they see this, they're gonna
Hmm.
start laughing at this part, but I'm taking them back. Well,
Yep. I mean,
okay.
you go back home to grandma, you're gonna be like, Grandma, did Uncle Wayne really have a jump shot? She's gonna be
Yeah.
like, yes.
Oh yeah, we're calling her tomorrow after this. Oh,
I'm gonna have to send you the picture of I have a picture of me and him shooting. My dad
oh,
has a fro, and we're shooting the same exact way, same facial expression and everything. I'm gonna send it to you so you can see it.
yes. We're gonna
Yep.
need that. Love that. But then
Yep.
also
Yep.
keeping in the major basketball theme, one of my favorite questions to ask people I talk to, your go-to pregame song. We're locking in, what are we playing?
Man. Oh, it just depends. It's like I'm very versatile with my music.
Hmm.
But I have quite a few. I'll listen to rap every now and then, but I'm not huge. If it's got a good beat, if it's got like an upbeat, we good. I can listen to Whitney Houston, I'm Every Woman, get hype on it. I can listen
Oh,
to
okay.
Prince. I can listen to Prince and it can be upbeat. I can listen to some gospel music and it can be upbeat.
Hmm.
Um, I've listened to a mixture. Like when I say a mixture of music, I've listened to everything.
Wow.
So it's not one particular song. I just have a variety of stuff. Like as long as it has a really good upbeat to it and it kind of makes you bounce. Yeah, that gets me hype.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Does that mean there's songs in other
Yeah.
languages too, since we've been overseas? Do we have? Songs in other languages too included then, or
There has been a few. There's
really?
yes, yes.
What? Okay.
Hmm. And
Hmm.
I don't even be know the words. I just be bobbing my head. Yeah, I just be bobbing my head.
That's
So
fun.
yeah,
And then I gotta ask you one of these too. This is one of
yeah.
those fun personal questions I love. I love asking. If you could write a letter to your 13-year-old self, what's something that you'd tell them in that letter?
Um, I think thinking now with where I am, stop trying to be perfect.
Hmm.
Everything's not perfect. Strive to be the best that you can be without consistent judgment of you. It's
Hmm.
okay. Like you don't have to judge yourself so much. Be kind, be gracious to yourself, and keep you first. Everybody else comes after.
Hmm.
Besides God, everybody else comes after. You have to consider you first because at the end of the day, yes, you have family, whatever, but you have to consider you and what's important to you.
Okay.
That's what I would tell my
Dropping some
13-year-old
gem,
self.
dropping some gems. And then we're gonna have to drop one more gem because we've mentioned when we talked about this before we got on here about how you be helping out like little kids now, like coaching in basketball. I know I've seen some clips of you going back to visit Tennessee when you do. So like what advice are you giving like those like young girls who are like striving to play basketball?
I think the biggest thing now, because I have been training a lot of younger girls that don't really understand like what type of work you have to be in, like you have to do to put yourself in a position to receive like what it is that you want. Um, I think the biggest advice is to block out all the noise
Mm,
and focus on you in the moment. Be present, be very, very present, and not think about the future because you really don't know what the future holds. You can say, hey, I want to go D1 and I want to go to the pro level, but not everybody makes it there. That's the harsh reality.
mm,
Not everybody does. You can work as hard as you can, but at the same time, never give up on your dreams. Always, continue to chase after your dreams. But remember, there's also a reality outside of that dream. And sometimes reality is going to hit you in the face every now and then, but you have to keep pushing. You have to progress and you have to consider everything that's going to come along with it because the road is not easy.
mm. The road is not easy. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Mm. Well, that's all the questions I got for you. Once again, thank you for coming on. This has been a great conversation.
You're welcome. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
I appreciate it. Y'all, if you like what you see, feel free to subscribe and hit those bells and wings and things down below. As I like to say, ain't no like the harding way, y'all. Peace.